Hi guys, Ray here from City Fan TV, and I'm joined by Colin Savage, who is Press Switch Blue on Twitter, finance expert, and Bernard Deneen from the Citizen Channel. How you doing, boys?
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, okay. How many rings have you got on your fingers? You got the Premier League ring, you got the FA Cup, we've got the Champions League, and we've got the Super Cup. And come December,
we'll be able to sing to Villa fans when they come. European Super Cup winners on penalties. You'll never sing that.
Absolutely. And come December, who's going to Saudi Arabia to watch the World Club Cup? No takers.
Not unless you're paying.
Oh, I'm not paying. Sitting in my suitcase. I'm going to try. And go. Only if we get to the final.
We only have to play 2 games, don't we?
Yeah. I'm not going to have much get me itinerary right, but if we get to the final, I'm going to try. But they haven't released any ticket information yet, so we'll wait to see on that. But,
how many points have you got? We need points for that one.
I don't think there'll be too many City fans going to Saudi Arabia, and if they do, some of them won't be coming back.
There won't be many coming back if they do.
Yeah. Right, guys. Well, frivolities aside, we're here to talk football finances. That's why we've got Colin on. We want to pick his brain and get his opinion on something that's gone on. It's gone under the radar. A lot of this. It's been mentioned very briefly, and then people have moved on this summer and last year as well. Whenever Manchester City are talked about, opposition fans and pundits and so-called impartial journalists, they want to talk about the 115 Premier League charges. They want to talk about FFP. They want to talk about the UEFA's charges in the past, and City got off, on a technicality and all this. And there's been reams and reams and reams written about it. Stuff, programs on television, on Sky and wherever about City's charges in the past. But when other clubs fall foul of UEFA and FFP, you don't really seem to hear that much about it. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to bring you some of that information. We're going to let you know about some of the clubs that have, let's say, had a slap on the wrists or a rap across the knuckles, and we haven't heard too much about them. So that's what we're going to talk about. So, Colin, can you tell us some of the clubs that have been in trouble over FFP infringements recently?
Well, yeah, quite a few big clubs. Juve banned for a season from European competition, of course. Now a few clubs are. Barcelona.
You said Juve have been banned for a year. Do these guys not query it like we thought it? Did they just accept it? Is it obviously that's sealed and delivered, signed, sealed, and delivered?
Yes, they'll appeal. But I'm not seeing anything. Barcelona, of course, are perennially in financial trouble. Always seem to find a so-called financial lever to get them out of it.
But their financial levers are potentially going to be problems down the line unless they can find new sources of income.
Yeah. So they're selling media rights. Of course, we talked about Real Madrid in a previous episode where they've they're in trouble for bringing all of a media sales arrangement in one go when they should have they should have spread it over a number of years probably. So that I think is ongoing.
Yeah, they're being investigated for that.
Yeah. So apparently a number of clubs were fine. Were in trouble last season in 2021, and UEFA have continued to monitor them, and the clubs. No particular order: AC Milan, Besiktas, Inter are Champions League final opponents, Marseille, Monaco, Paris Saint-Germain, and Roma. They're all compliant in the latest round, but UEFA said it's going to continue monitoring them under with the settlement agreements they reached. And of course, that's the big clubs. It was a bit under the radar that one of the smaller clubs also got a 300k euro fine, which was Manchester United. And of course, the press made the one transfer we should do is their PR team, because the press made much of it. It was a minor financial fair play breach. Well, what it seems to have been is they've obviously during COVID, UEFA relaxed the rules a little and allowed clubs to discount losses directly attributable to COVID. The obvious one is loss of match day revenue, ticket income, because obviously people won't come to games. So apparently the way United adjusted their losses was wrong, and UEFA had to reinstate about 250 million euros of those losses, 250 million pounds of those losses, and that put United in breach. But of course, it was only accidental, and we know they're the biggest club in the world with 1 billion fans, and the Glazers, of course, are incredibly generous and throw money at them like confetti. So I'm sure it was just a very minor technical breach, but my goodness, wasn't it funny?
Yeah,
and the one thing we seem to have not had is the letter on Arsenal-headed notepaper signed by a number of clubs insisting that the Premier League rigorously impose these financial fair play rules and ban clubs who are in breach of them. But I'm sure, given previous instances where that letter has been leaked, the security around it must be much tighter.
You mentioned it's an interesting point there. Sorry, Colin, to butt in. When City were going through UEFA issue, FFP charges and whatever, we were here every other day. We were hearing stuff that was leaked out from, I guess, no one else but UEFA, because I can't believe City's PR would be leaking stuff and then complaining about stuff being leaked. But on all these charges, we never heard a dicky bird until we were told by UEFA, and then since we've not heard a dicky bird either. What's going on?
It's the same with the Premier League charges against City. We know we've been charged, but not a dicky bird has really leaked out, which shows that people can keep their mouth shut when they want. But I think a lot of it is the way City reacted to the leaks coming out of UEFA over our case. UEFA are supposed to have opened an ethics inquiry.
Sorry.
And it's very tempting to say it's more Norfolk and chance of ever hearing that, to use another county. So that one never came to fruition, did it? But yeah, it's amazing how these the authorities can keep their mouth shut when it suits them, isn't it?
No, absolutely. So in any of these cases, let's for want of a better phrase, look at some of the bigger clubs going forwards. Are any of the clubs that are under investigation or that have been punished, is there any chance of them suffering further punishment, or if they don't comply?
Well, if they don't comply, yeah, I say UEFA don't really have a tariff of charges. They have introduced it for the next round, as the next version of FFP, but you would imagine if a club failed twice or three times, then the punishment would be, PSG, how many times have they failed FFP now? 2, 3 times? They still get just a slap on the wrist.
Well, the Premier League, sorry,
punished, but
yeah. Sorry, I just brought in again. Well, the Premier League, obviously we know the Premier League have to look at Chelsea because they've done more than just fall foul of FFP. They've been, for want of a better phrase, cooking the books under Roman Abramovich. And so the Premier League will have to look at them. Would the Premier League, United was only a small fine, Colin, But would the Premier League be interested in what's been going on at United?
No, I don't think so, because it does genuinely seem to have been
an oversight,
a disagreement over how much of their COVID losses they could claim. I don't think the Premier League. I don't think the Premier League introduced a similar COVID related. I can't remember off the top of my head, but say the Premier League rules are much laxer than the UEFA FFP rules, and of course we know if we go back a few years, the Premier League rules trying to manage wage increases and try to make sure that they were offset by increases in commercial income, and that suddenly mysteriously got dropped when it looked like a certain club that, not a million miles from the Etihad, it's about 5, I think it is, would have failed under those terms, and that quietly got swept under the carpet, and those particular conditions got dropped.
I mean, I think it's worth briefly mentioning, if we're going to look at some of the Premier League clubs. Obviously, United have been fined, as you said. Chelsea have got problems, but some of the other clubs aren't squeaky clean. They've got, let's say, some skeletons in their closet. Liverpool had an issue with FFP years ago. They seem to get out of that. They've been done for accessing our scouting database when they shouldn't have done. Some of their employees were for up to a year they were accessing that database. Look, City's mistake as well, but just because you leave your door open doesn't mean that someone who walks in and nicks your silverware, it hasn't done wrong. And then we've got Spurs. What's happened to Spurs? And well, is he still their owner, or is he their former owner, Joe Lewis?
Well, he was I think something about 80% owner of this company, ENIC, which owns Spurs. Daniel Levy was the other 20% owner. So he's been charged with various offences, hasn't he? I can't remember what they were off the top of my head.
Insider dealing. He's been telling his mates.
He was giving people share tips. All sorts of people share tips on companies he was involved with or investing in or knew stuff about. So, of course, that's all been... Apparently, he's not involved in Spurs.
I think he's given the shares to a trust when the beneficiaries are his children.
Yeah, something like that. But, it would be a shame if he'd given Daniel Levy any of these share tips, wouldn't it? And,
you naughty boy, Colin.
Spurs, yeah. So Spurs, of course, Spurs are in the money because they sold Harry Kane for, what was it, 100 million to Bayern. They've got money to splash about in the market, but whether they will or not.
Have Arsenal done anything dodgy in the last few years?
I'm sure they have.
I say that.
Well, I mean, if you class bottling the league as dodgy,
we'll say that. We'll say that.
It wasn't that long ago.
In defence, I mean, other fans watching this and other people watching this will be saying, "Look, you're saying United have been done 300k for one thing that Colin's admitted that the Premier League won't be looking into it because it's by the by." But, come on, City, 115, that's all we hear. 150, 150. It's not one dismissed. We know it's not 115. We know when it all boils down to it, it's not that sort of number, of course, because it's all related and all. We've gone through it before, haven't we? But, we can do these things. But, of course, that's what other fans are going to say. It's nothing. It's absolutely nothing at all compared to 115 charges. And unfortunately, that's what we're having to put up with, isn't it, Colin? Even though we know it's not really 115, it's a repetition, isn't it?
We're probably in a similar position to Chelsea, who've been paying people off the books, as I said before. So we're just waiting for the 115 charges. But what is it? 8 years, 2012 to 2019. So that's 8 years. So. I mean, they might get away with it. Let's say it's 10 charges a year for 8 years. May only be 80 charges for Chelsea, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the Premier League
figures, isn't it? It just looks amazing, doesn't it? 115. It just looks. I mean, you can't compare what all the other teams have been done. I mean, I think Everton hit trouble, didn't they? Weren't they in trouble as well? So but that doesn't compare, does it? And that's all you get now. Hashtag 115, which even City fans use it. We're not bothered about that sort of thing. But as I say, opposing fans watching this vlog now will be just say it's pathetic. You're talking about one charge. We hack your system. So what? That's just one thing. You've got 115.
Yeah. Well, we know it's not actually 115. It's they've manufactured these 115. There's probably 3 things making up those 115 charges. So we'll see what the Premier League come up with from a Chelsea point of view. And of course, the other thing, I'm not sure if we've ever mentioned this before, is that the Premier League have gone back to 2009, 2010 with our charges. Now, if you think about that hacking, it was in 2013 when the settlement was reached. When it actually came out, the Premier League said it was too long ago to investigate.
Yeah. Liverpool were fined £1 million, weren't they? To basically make that go away.
The settlement with them.
Yeah.
Because we said Liverpool apparently failed financial fair play twice, but because they weren't in Europe, UEFA couldn't take action. There's nothing UEFA could do. Arsenal. It was only a few years ago that Arsenal fans were very much in the Kroenke out camp.
Yeah. Now he spent a bit of money. Kroenke in. Oh, we'll go back a few more years and talk about George Graham and his bungs.
George and his bungs. Yeah.
Every club probably has skeletons in their closet. You can go back and find stuff that clubs have done. And they've got away with it. They've got away with it. You go back and say, we're gonna, strip Man United of all their titles because one of their owners was selling rancid meat to schools. I mean, or whatever. Do I need to say allegedly, or is that true?
Martin Edwards' toilet antics.
I don't know. I don't know about that story. I don't think since it's before 9 p.m. I don't think we can know about that story. But look, I think the main point is that we're trying to get across is, I've said it before, clubs sail close to the wind. They try to bend but not break the rules. And it happens in accounting. You try and use the rules to your advantage, as we've seen with Chelsea and their amortization antics. But lots of clubs fall foul of whether it's the Premier League rules or UEFA's rules. And it just seems to be one club that are targeted by the media and nobody else. The final question, Colin and Bernard, why is it that City get it in the neck all the time and the other clubs don't seem to get it? And I will give one answer. Is it because we're so damn good on the pitch?
Yeah, that's part of it, isn't it?
Yeah. That's all they've got left. All they've got left, mate. That's it.
That's it.
I think if the ownership.
I mean, even the empty seats jibe has calmed down a little bit now because we're pretty full last season. So even that's going by the wayside, and it's just the 115 now. That's the thing.
You've got to look at. You've got these American-owned clubs, white. The WASP, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant-owned clubs, and you've got an Arab-owned club, and almost the narrative is these dodgy Arabs, you can't trust them. And even the Guardian, are impeccable, left-wing, anti-racist, cultural enrichment, champion of diversity, seems to have a blind spot when it comes to our owners. I mean, one of their reporters, was it Jonathan Wilson, or used the phrase "a row of grinning beards" about a picture of, I think, the team in Abu Dhabi meeting Sheikh Mansour. And it's a bit of a racist trope, isn't it? They wouldn't do it to the Glazers, a row of big noses or something, alluding to their Jewish background. They wouldn't do it. They just would not do it. But they think it's They seem to have the green light to do it for our ownership. So I think it's partly success. It's partly the ownership. And it's partly, it brings in readers, doesn't it? It's clickbait. A negative story about City will bring in United and Liverpool fans and now our Arsenal fans are the new Liverpool fans, aren't they? Except even more so. I mean, it took us a few years to break Liverpool fans, but it only took one season to actually drive Arsenal fans, into madness, didn't it? Completely.
Absolutely.
The mouth, cliche spouting stuff.
Be careful what we say. We're getting into the realms of stuff. But guys, I'm going to say we're going to wrap this up and say big thanks to Colin, big thanks to Bernard for sharing your thoughts about what some of the other big clubs around Europe have been caught doing, and the reasons why everybody picks on City. But basically, we don't care. We'll back them off and we'll keep winning trophies. And I guess that's
we are the new Millwall.
That's
Everyone
it.
thinks we don't care.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, guys.